Hi, my name is Bente, I'm the Norse Witch, and long time no book review, so here we go. Today we're talking about this beautiful book. This is the deluxe hardcover version of Psychic Witch by Mat Auryn. Why have I never made a review of this book? I'm constantly recommending it to beginners over and over and over again, so I can't really believe I have never filmed a review on this book. Now this is long overdue. This has actually been out since September, so this review is long overdue. I'm very sorry, this is pretty late. We were currently actually rereading Psychic Witch in my Patreons and YouTube members book club. So this was kind of perfect timing when Matt reached out to me and asked me to review the beautiful deluxe version. The interesting part is I read Psychic Witch for the first time 4 or 5 years ago or something like that. Like, it has been some time ago. So I wasn't a complete beginner at that point, but this book made me realize that I was actually missing quite a few skills in my skill set. This was a very formative book for me personally. It has still remained one of my favorites, especially for full-on beginners. With that being said, let's jump into the full-on review. First of all, I want to start with, yes, this is still, after a couple of years, still one of my favorite witchcraft books, and this is still one that I would always recommend to beginners. But let's maybe start with the deluxe version. Why am I reviewing the deluxe version? So, of course, I'm reviewing this because this just came out in September, and Matt and Llewellyn were so nice to gift me the book. So no, I was not paid for this review. I just got this book so that I could review it. So initially I bought the first version from my own hard-earned money because I wanted it and I wanted to read it, and I devoured it, and I really loved it back then. I still remember that. And I still remember talking about this book a lot. I think I even made a video on a spell I cast with the mind magic spell from this book. If I'm correct and it's still up, then I will put it here. But this is the deluxe version. The original version was a paperback, which was already beautiful, but this is even more beautiful because now it's, first of all, it's a hardcover. It is now silver on black, which I'm a big fan of. I love kind of minimalistic but still fancy looking books. It has black edges. I love that. I am not a fan of sprayed edges, but black edges I can really vibe with. And it's just beautifully illustrated and just feels very high quality. It does work with the name deluxe version because it really is a deluxe version. Now, this book did get a new foreword by Matt, in which he also tackles some questions that he got concerning the first book, because there were some people who had some issues with some things in the first version of this, and I personally really love that Matt wasn't like, oh yeah, fine, you have a problem with the book, your problem. No, he really took it to heart. First of all, he also incorporated all of the things that people were struggling with the first version of the book into his second book, Mastering Magic, and he also talks about it in the new foreword for this edition. So he tackles, for example, issues with aphantasia, which was always like one of the critique points about the first version, that he didn't really mention what you can do when you can't visualize, because a lot of the techniques are very visualization heavy. But now in the new foreword, he goes into that and explains what you can do if you struggle with visualization, but you still want to do all of the exercises. And he also goes into issues that ADHD people might have or other neurodivergent people might have. So I think that is amazing that he just took the critiques, he took them to heart, and he incorporated that into the new foreword. I personally really love that. Psychic Witch, I kind of see it as like a 3-part book. The first part is very much about starting from the complete beginner's level. You can't do anything. You've never meditated, you've never worked on your psychic abilities, and you want to start out. So the first part is kind of about developing your psychic abilities, learning to meditate, learning to visualize, things like that. Which for me personally was so important because, let's be honest, learning to meditate, learning to visualize, things like that isn't necessarily fun, especially if you struggle with it in the beginning. So that was one thing that I had always been very lackluster with, and the book really showed me that this is important, and it's important work to do. The first part is pretty much focusing on psychic abilities, perceiving things and developing your abilities. And what I love is that it's not just about learning clairvoyance, because I kind of feel like some books just focus on developing clairvoyance. The Psychic Witch has exercises for all of the psychic abilities. There are literally, let me see, there is a table of exercises. There are 107 exercises in this book. So that book is extremely practical, application heavy, and that is also something that I love. Especially the first part is not very theory heavy. So you're going into the book and you're literally working through the book. Like every single exercise builds on all of the previous exercises. You can really use it as a workbook. It's not a book that you read through in one go within a week or something. You should take this book as a workbook. You should read the book until the exercises and then do the exercises, and if you feel like the exercises work for you well, then you're going on with the next exercises. So that is something that I personally loved, and I have a cat hair on my nose which is very itchy. That is something that I love because I kind of feel like a lot of witchcraft books nowadays are a lot of fluff. It's just a lot of blah 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 that doesn't really get you anywhere. So now the first part is especially exercise heavy, and then we're getting into kind of like a second part that is a little bit more about like the philosophical background of witchcraft a little bit. That's how I would explain it. Laying the groundwork, like the philosophical groundwork for the witchcraft parts later in the book. It's really a book that takes you from nothing to witch. Honestly, that's what I feel like. It has like all of the foundational modern witchcraft aspects to it. Matt also tried to, and he says that also in the introduction part, that he tried to keep it as neutral as possible so that it's accessible for people from all different walks of life and traditions. I have to say, I think that's a very, very high stakes goal. I think it's amazing that he tried to do that. Did he succeed? I don't think he succeeded 100%. And that's what I'm realizing now that I'm rereading it, because back when I read it, I was still very much Western occultism Wicca based, like in the philosophy parts of my practice. Nowadays, I'm very much focused on folk magic and folk practices. And Holdom doesn't necessarily work with a lot of those like Western occultist things. I mean, the elements kind of exist, but they're not a focus. And air isn't even really air, it's more weather than air. The planets aren't really that much a thing. With that being said, a lot of the like philosophical parts, I wouldn't necessarily say they are neutral anymore. The original version came out in 2020, and I still think that in 2020 the witchcraft community was still much more Wicca based, Western occultism based than it is right now, because I kind of feel like in these 5 years there was a big shift towards walking the path of your ancestors, connecting with folk practices, things like that. And with that, I think the community has shifted a little bit more away from, all of those Western occultist philosophical ideas. So do I think it is still 100% neutral? I don't think it is. Do I think that's even possible? No. I don't think it's even possible to write a witchcraft book, especially if you're going into the philosophy of it, and keep it 100% neutral, because witches cannot agree on anything. I mean, there are witches who work with energy, and there are other witches who work with spirits, and then there are witches who just think it's all spicy psychology. So we can't even really agree on that. So I don't really think you can keep it 100% neutral, and you can't get to a point where everyone agrees. That's just not possible. That's just how life goes. We are all practicing different kinds of magic, so of course we don't agree. But yeah, that being said, the middle part, now rereading it, not necessarily my favorite anymore. So I definitely love the first and the last part. Something else that I really love about the book is that I think most, if not all, of the spells are completely material free. It's just you and yourself and your mind that you need for the exercises. So I don't know if in the very last spells part, there are some spells maybe that need some material, but I remember them not needing any. But that was always something that I really loved, because you don't have to like gather all of the material to like do the exercises in the book. You can just like read the book, read the exercise, be like, oh, that sounds fun. I will try that exercise, put the book aside, and then try to do the exercise. So that's amazing. Also, I feel like a lot of the exercises are just approachable, and even if, because again, witches can't agree on anything, so of course you won't like all of the over 100 exercises, that's just not possible. But they are very much adaptable. What we sometimes did in the book club is that we just adapted some of the exercises because some of us were struggling with some things. I still remember that a lot of us had like a problem with the name, the sticky one, for example, for the lower self, which is mentioned in the book. A lot of us were kind of feeling a little bit icky about the name, the sticky one, because it feels like, player tangency wise, it just feels sticky and blue. So we just switched that out, and that's very much possible for a lot of the exercises. So now I think the big question is, would I still recommend this book to other people? Yes. I can wholeheartedly say that, even now that I have reread it after 5 years. And I think that's a feat if you're managing to write a witchcraft book that is still working after 5 years and that is not entirely outdated. I kind of feel like that's an accomplishment. Like, that's just congratulations to you, Matt. That's an accomplishment. So I would still very much recommend this book to any beginner. And that even though now, after 5 years, I don't really care for the middle part, I would still recommend it to any kind of beginner. Because just because I don't necessarily vibe with the philosophy part anymore, that doesn't mean that nobody else will. If you are interested in modern witchcraft, if you are interested in Western occultism, you're interested in learning psychic abilities, if you're interested in learning how to meditate, if you're interested in learning like the philosophical background of a witchcraft practice, if you're interested in learning basic witchcraft things like banishing and invoking pentagrams, like casting a magic circle, the elements, the planets, land connectedness, all of those kinds of things. If you're even interested in casting spells entirely just with your mind and your psychic senses, then that book is amazing. Like, I would still very much recommend it. And yeah, with that being said, congratulations again to Matt for this very beautiful deluxe version of your very first book. It is still an amazing book, and the deluxe version is just beautiful. Honestly, I think I will just like use this as a display piece because I do have the first version, and that is already battered and like bent edges and everything. So I think I will use this beautiful one as a display piece somewhere in my library. So thank you so much for sending the book over. To everyone else, I hope this video helped you in any kind of way. Tell me in the comments if you liked Psychic Witch. Give maybe like a short review in the comments. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and give a thumbs up and ring the bell down below so that you're notified whenever I upload a new video. If you want to keep up with my personal shenanigans, then make sure to hit me up on Instagram. And if you want to support this channel, then check out my Patreon or my YouTube membership. And I will see you in another video. Bye!